future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today.
Globe's R.I.S.E is an exclusive event of Globe Business that aims to support enterprises across all regions to gain new perspectives, provide strategies, and share latest insights for various industries. Any information shared during the live stream will be viewable to all the participants in the webinar. Please refrain from sharing personal information such as name, location, contact details, and other sensitive information in our chat box. Globe Business, their affiliates, partners, representatives, and all staff and employees involved in this event shall not be liable for any unauthorized distribution or malicious use of such information. The views and opinions expressed by the host and guests do not necessarily reflect the position of Globe Business and its management, Globe Telecom. Thank you. We will begin shortly.
better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today.
Good day, enterprise partners, and welcome to Globe Business R.I.S E, Regional Insights and Strategies for Enterprises, Digitalization, and Regional Expansion in the IT-BPO industry. Before we start the program, here are some reminders. Please make sure that you have a stable internet connection for the best viewing experience. But in case you lose your connection, please re-enter the webinar room so you won't miss any important talks from all our distinguished speakers. Use earphones or headsets for better audio quality. Please use the Zoom Q&A button to send in your questions during the panel discussions. We are looking forward to your active participation. Thank you.
A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today. A better future is built by the brave, envisioned by brilliant minds, born from the passions of thousands strong. One that isn't without risk, but protected from it. Safe from all the worries and secure for what's to come. Because a better future with the greatest empires, the strongest communities, and the happiest families will always be worth having. That's why the bold and the fearless understand that recreating something better takes courage and strength. So together, let's start shaping a better future today.
Innovate, transform, and evolve your business in today's now normal. This is Glow Business Rise! They say the only constant thing in this world is change. And right now, it's all the world ever sees. We live in a time when countries, economies, and industries are rapidly changing, shifting, and developing. And as this happens, consumer demands change too, expecting innovative experiences with excellent support services to meet their satisfaction. These have prompted the IT and business process outsourcing industries to rethink the way they do business and their focus on digital transformation to achieve a more digitized customer journey, unleash the power of data, and create intelligent systems and processes to improve customer experience. We understand this reality, and we want to be with you on your journey. Which is why we provide you with the tools to successfully navigate the evolving landscape of IT-BPO industries. With a secure and fast connection, effective collaboration, data on demand, and applications to empower your workforce. Elements that are essential to ensure your business continuity. We bring you global competitiveness by enabling your business with the right technology. Let us innovate together and emerge from this better and stronger. Committed to pave your way to digitalization and regional expansion in the IT-BPO industry. This is how we can help you rise. Regional insights and strategies for enterprises. Introducing your host for today's affair, please welcome Ria Tanwatco Trillo.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Globe Business Rise, Regional Insights and Strategies for Enterprises. My name is Ria Tanwatco Trillo, and I am going to be your host for today's event. So it's a bright and early Thursday morning, and we really appreciate that you're able to join us for today's learning session. But before anything, we'd like to get to know our audience a little better. It can be a little difficult since we're not face-to-face and we have this virtual setup. So, to get to know you a little more, I'd like to ask, what is your purpose in joining us today? Now, I'm sure that one of the reasons why you're here is because you're all interested to hear from our distinguished speakers. But apart from that, we'd like to know what are the other possible reasons for your participation in today's event. So, are you here because you want to A, learn the latest trends and insights in the IT-BPO industry? Or maybe it's B, you want to pick up all the information from the talks. It could be C, you want to make new connections, or even D, you want to take a day out of the office. Why not? We're not quite at the weekend yet. Now, our poll is now open, and we do want to hear from you. So you should be seeing a prompt on your screens to cast your vote, right? Is it A? Is it B? Is it C? Or is it D? Absolutely no judgment, guys. If you want to take a day out of the office, good for you. If you want to make new connections, that's great. This is a good venue for that. And of course, all the information, knowing about the latest trends and insights from the IT-BPO industry, that's all going to be happening here this morning. So we hope to you find that what you guys are looking for. So let's see if we have the results of the poll. All right. Get that here. Okay, so 63% of you want to learn the latest trends and insights from the industry. 32% you guys want to pick up the information from the talks. 5% want to make new connections, and nobody wants to take a day out of the office. All right. That's good to know. So thank you everyone for answering your poll. I do feel your excitement, even though we are not exactly physically together. And of course, with our lineup of speakers, we wouldn't be. So whatever reasons you may have for joining us, we hope that we can help you achieve all of this by the end of the program. Now that we know why you're here, let's figure out the reason behind this event. How did Globe Business Rise? Over the past year, all industries have undergone major changes to their organizations, and the IT-BPO industry is no exception. With most employees working from home and others utilizing flexible working arrangements, the IT-BPO industry needed to learn new ways to shift their business operations to keep up with the demands of the times. Globe Business understands this reality, and being at the forefront of business innovation and transformation, Globe Business aspires to be part of your journey towards digitization so you can reach your full potential with access to insights and strategies for your enterprise. And this is how Globe Business R.I.S.E came to be. Today's session is all about digitalization and regional expansion in the IT-BPO industry. So get ready for a day of learning as we have invited distinguished guest speakers to share their insights, perspectives, and trends in the industry. So, I said we have a very busy morning ahead, so let's get started. Welcoming you for today's event, let's all give some virtual applause to Globe Business Senior Vice President of the Enterprise Group, Mr. Peter Maquera.
Thank you, Ria, and hi, everyone. I'm glad that you were able to join us despite your busy schedules. Thank you for being here. Since IT-BPO planted its roots and grew in the Philippines, the industry has continuously been pivoting to deliver and support bold transformational activities to meet customer shifting needs. So it's no surprise that even if 2020 was tough, the IT-BPO industry was quick to adapt digitally and still managed to grow by almost 2%. At that time, BPO's unemployment rate was lower than most of the industries at around 13%, as 86% of BPO companies continued to hire new agents since the start of the lockdown. Not only that, almost half of BPO companies, 43%, still saw higher demand for their services despite the lockdown and needed more manpower to deliver on projects and customer requirements. These statistics say a lot about how having innovation at its core becomes instrumental for the industry's survival and road to recovery. However, we all know that there's still much work to do. Our conversation about innovation and digital transformation for IT-BPO still needs to keep going, not only to prepare for whatever crisis comes next, but also to continue growing the industry despite any crisis. In the interviews we did last year with select enterprises, what surfaced was some BPO companies were still technologically unprepared to quickly shift the majority of their operations to work from home when the pandemic happened. Most of them faced three key challenges with work from home: stable network connectivity for each employee, easy remote access to work tools and applications, and secure and confidential handling of vital information by employees. And since IT-BPO mainly relies on human capital, there have been concerns as well on how to push the borders of digital to support talent management and employee engagements. These concerns cover implementing 100% remote onboarding, training, and transitions, creating frictionless employee engagement experiences to empower teams for success and to sustain high engagement, and executing occupational safety and health programs to expand area and employee coverage. Amid all of this work from home shifts and adjustments to nurture the human capital, how do you become more agile as an IT-BPO enterprise and be more future-proof? If you're one of those companies who can relate to the points of discourse for the industry, I hope that through our session today, you'll be able to find some answers and the path you're looking for. We have invited well-esteemed industry leaders for today. Ricky Salvador from IBPAP will talk about empowering BPOs in the region. Dominique Rubia-Tutay from DOLE will tackle human capital, health and safety reskilling, and upskilling in the regions. My friend, Jonathan de Luzuriaga from PSIA will discuss improving the experience of the digital customer. Pert Kabatana from CIBO will take us through regional trends and insights. And another old friend, Asim Roy from Wipro, will give an enterprise customer's perspective on connectivity and ICT solutions for BPO companies. Thank you, guest speakers, for being with us. and being open to sharing best practices. I encourage our audience to be engaged throughout and to raise questions during the panel discussion. Let's maximize the platform to learn how we can collaborate to help the IT-BPO sector rise above challenges and own a braver business together. Maraming salamat. Enjoy the rest of the session.
Thank you very much, Peter, for that insightful and inspiring opening. And truly, Globe is the perfect partner for the IT-BPO industry to achieve a complete ecosystem that's sustainable, efficient, and attuned to help you ensure business continuity and security in today's digital era, especially for this industry, which, in spite of the pandemic, is growing. So before we start our session proper, you might be wondering, how does Globe IT-BPO help enterprises become trailblazers in the industry? At Globe, the goal is not only to provide transformative insights from among the best in the industry, but also to know how Globe Business connects you to a world of possibilities. Do more and be more with our next level solutions, massive device connectivity, and better coverage. To know more, please watch this.
We have always chased the unbelievable, the unthinkable, the unspeakable, the undoable. And our pursuit of doing the unimaginable has made us do wonders.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
Globe 5G for Business. We push things further. Globe Business brings businesses to the future with 5G. Do more and be more with next level solutions. Massive device connectivity. Ultra low latency. Ultra fast speed. Ultra reliability. And better coverage. The power to create the unbelievable is here. Let's take it beyond business. Join the future with Globe Business.
Now, I know you're all excited to meet our speakers for today's webinar, so I'm not going to keep you waiting any longer. Enterprise partners, it is now time for you to rise. First on our list, he leads and directs IBPAP's efforts in building and strengthening relations with partners in the industry, enabling sectors, and partner associations. As a representative of the industry, he works closely with the executive and legislative branches of the government in developing growth strategies, addressing social concerns, and driving investor interest. He also expands and implements membership initiatives to encourage more partnerships and create a more collaborative IT-BPO ecosystem. His experience as a corporate lawyer spans over 20 years and cuts across multiple sectors. Throughout his career, he continuously refined and demonstrated his expertise in policy shaping, stakeholder management, regulatory affairs, customer care, business continuity, crisis response, and public communications, among others. Here to talk to you about the post-COVID outlook, empowering BPOs in the regions, please welcome the Executive Director for External Affairs and Investor Relations of the IT and Business Process Association of the Philippines, Attorney Ricky Salvador.
Thank you for the very kind introduction, Ria. Allow me to thank Globe's Senior Vice President, Mr. Peter Maquera, for the invitation. I'd like to acknowledge also the other distinguished speakers today, starting with Dole Asek Niki Tutay, Mr. Jonathan Defensor de Luzuriaga, Mr. Pert Cabatanya, and Mr. Asim Roy. Good day, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to begin my presentation on the Philippine IT-BPO industry, post-COVID outlook, empowering BPOs in the Philippines. The Philippine IT BPM industry started in the Philippines as early as the 1980s with basic encoding, IT programming, and in-house development. More than 40 years down the road, the sector has grown to 1,000 companies and generated jobs for more than 1.32 million Filipinos, while indirectly impacting close to 4.3 million more across the nation. Today, the industry is the country's largest job generator and one of its biggest private sector employers. Together with OFW remittances, it is also a major source of foreign exchange, with recorded revenues of 26.7 billion US dollars in 2020. The exponential growth of the industry over the years has also triggered a multiplier effect in other business sectors by spurring commercial real estate development and consumption spending. Equally important is that the sector is one of the largest investors in training and developing Filipino talent, spending anywhere between 5 to 10 times more than other industries on continuous upskilling, reskilling, and immersions to global best practices. Through decades of change and periods of ambiguity, the Philippine IT BPM sector has consistently demonstrated its resilience and agility year on year and in the face of challenges like natural disasters, the financial crisis, and COVID-19. The industry has been able to sustain its annual growth both in terms of jobs and revenues. In 2020, despite a predicted flat growth and against a backdrop of an economic recession, the sector registered a growth of 1.8% in total headcount and 1.4% in recorded revenues compared to 2019. This growth was driven by an increase in demand across industry verticals and horizontal offerings like healthcare, e-commerce and retail, banking, finance and administration, and telecommunications. This ultimately helped offset the unprecedented contraction seen in other areas such as hospitality and travel. There was also a notable upturn in IT outsourcing projects in the latter part of 2020 as clients invested heavily in digitization to mitigate prevailing issues caused by the pandemic and as a way to enhance their business continuity plans. This remarkable and welcome sign of the IT BPM sector's recovery and growth is further reinforced by insights from our allied industries, as manifested through real estate take-up and employment opportunities. In real estate, many organizations also continue to identify our industry to be a prime driver of real estate. The industry has been one of the top hirers for the first half of 2021, contributing around 60,000 job openings or 11% of the total postings in the Philippines. Global and local perception on the what's, why's, and how's of remote work was altered because of the pandemic. Before COVID-19, the idea of work from home seemed to be more a luxury than an exception. But over the course of the past year and a half, it has quickly become the driving force behind many organizations and their ability to remain operational despite many challenges. More importantly, global and local leaders are seeing work from home beyond its purpose as a BCP measure. In this survey by Deloitte, you'll see that out of 600 global respondents, more than half are considering to implement a hybrid and mostly remote work model for the next 3 to 5 years. In addition to the shifting viewpoints of employers on the hybrid work model, there is also a growing consensus among employees on the advantages of work from home, which we are starting to align with as an industry because of the following benefits. 1, it keeps employees healthy and safe by limiting mobility. 2, it provides job opportunities beyond metro cities by removing geographical boundaries and by virtually increasing the hiring radius of companies. 3. It decongests the traffic situation in the National Capital Region and helps reduce pollution. 4. It retains Philippine competitiveness both in terms of cosplay and operational flexibility. 5. It sustains and improves employee productivity due to an optimized workday. And lastly, it reduces absenteeism and turnover rate because of the additional flexibility extended to employees to take care of their families. Now, let's shift gears and discuss how the health crisis affected another pillar of the Philippine IT-BPM industry. According to a recent report by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development, the pandemic also had a large impact on the demand for skills. For example, COVID-related lockdowns changed the nature of work and increased job posting that offered work-from-home arrangements. The transformation of the nature of work caused the emergence of future jobs which require complex, higher cognitive skills and technical competencies. Combined with accelerated digital transformation, the sector must jointly target to have 73% of the IT BPM workforce taking up mid and high skilled jobs by 2022. To put this into context, only 54% of the workforce was capable of mid and high value work in 2016. Other than technical capabilities, organizations also claim to build a workforce of continuous learners, characterized with an agile mindset that is a talent with learnability, agility, and curiosity. Leadership skills to work, collaborate, and steer people amid a volatile environment. Digital savviness and readiness, which is a leverage on extracting the inherent benefits of digital transformation. In line with these developments, and given the pivotal role of the Filipino talent in sustaining the growth of the sector, industry stakeholders have rightfully embarked on a number of talent attraction and development initiatives to create an ecosystem that is sustainable, adaptable, and competitive. The efforts of individual companies, the different subsectors, and even IBPAP, each one works hand in hand towards enabling the industry to pivot to more complex and higher value services. Among the initiatives currently being implemented at the company and industry levels are upskilling programs that provide access to industry-relevant courses and/or industry-recognized certifications to promote continuous learning and workforce development. Workshops or competency-building sessions led by industry experts on domain, digital, or leadership skills to develop the capabilities of the existing workforce. And webinars, which serve as a platform for information and knowledge sharing among industry practitioners and thought leaders on perspectives and best practices on critical themes and topics. IBPAP and our partner associations have also established a unified talent development framework for industry building that's in line with the National Upskilling and Reskilling Program. Once this has been scaled and rolled out, it will enable skills development and lifelong learning for 1 million Filipinos over a period of 5 years. Given the persisting COVID-19 situation in the Philippines, another urgent and pressing matter that we are trying to address is the efficient and widespread rollout of the vaccine. This will be critical not only in the health and safety of the general population, but also in bringing back a sense of normalcy and predictability to the IT-BPM sector. To fast-track the vaccine rollout, the industry has joined various consortiums to procure over 1 million doses of vaccines for employees and their dependents. IBPAP is participating in one such agreement via the ICTSI Foundation. As a result, over 100 IT-BPM organizations gained access to the Moderna vaccine. Assistance was also extended to micro, small, and medium enterprises, or MSMEs, by aggregating and facilitating their orders. Together with CCAP and HEMAP, IBPAP also has a memorandum of agreement with the Quezon City government for the vaccination of qualified workers of BPOs located in the city. As of this week, more than 18,700 doses have been administered. Given the success of this engagement, similar partnerships have been established with 5 other LGUs, namely Makati, Mandaluyong, Pasay, Pasig, and Taguig. On top of our efforts on legislation, talent, and the vaccine rollout, we are also looking to harness the immense potential of countryside locations and talent. Each of these 25 locations were carefully assessed and chosen based on priority areas considered by investors and locators, such as talent availability, infrastructure, cost, and business environment. Some points of action that Digital Cities 2025 will be focusing on are institutional development, talent attraction and development, infrastructure development, and marketing and promotion. Just a couple of months back, 9 of the 25 digital cities were able to launch their ICT roadmaps. Palanga, Batangas, General Santos, Iligan, Legazpi, Puerto Princesa, Taytay, Tuguegarao, and Zamboanga, and the formation of a multi-agency task force composed of 13 government agencies. Prior to the pandemic, the Philippine IT-BPM industry had always shown that it was capable of navigating uncertainties and weathering disruption. A recent study conducted by the Everest Group shows that the sector has the potential to attain revenue growth of 5.5% and headcount growth of 5% per annum from 2021 to 2022. This means that earnings can amount to $29 billion by 2022 and add more than 130,000 full-time employees within 2 years. As we move forward on these ongoing plans, we must keep in mind that there is a bigger picture to consider when it comes to the IT-BPM sector's continued relevance and competitiveness. Based on a 2020 study, the industry has the potential to attain revenue growth of 5.5% and headcount growth of 5% per annum until 2022. This means that earnings can amount to $29 billion by 2022 and more than 130,000 FTEs by next year. Going forward, this growth will be enabled by the following strategic imperatives and initiatives. Stronger pivot towards becoming a more digitally enabled nation, one that continues to be globally competitive and relevant as a prime investment destination. Expedite investments in talent attraction and development, particularly for domain and digital skills. Enhance government support and fortify the industry's role in the formulation of enabling and responsive public policies to create a business-friendly environment. Refresh the Philippine IT-BPM's value proposition and promote continuing private conversations around the IT-BPM sectors through strategic marketing and targeted investor relations initiatives. Lastly, hasten projects in improving and strengthening telecommunications, power, and transportation networks, as well as other infrastructures. Thank you very much for your attention. I would like to thank Globe for this opportunity to give these IT-BPM updates. Back to you, Ria.
Thank you very much, Attorney Ricky, for sharing your post-COVID outlook on how we can empower BPOs in the region. It's an industry that has been able to really adapt and pivot, and it does seem like things are really looking up. Now, preparing the workforce for the future with the right skills and capabilities is an important factor that enterprises need to develop. In recent years, the influence of disruptive technologies in labor markets have threatened jobs because of automation. And let's face it, as technology changes, the role of humans changes too. So, how do enterprises anticipate the transformations of jobs, tasks, and skills to prepare their employees for the workforce of the future? This will be answered by our next speaker, who will talk about human capital, health and safety, reskilling, and upskilling in the regions. She is the concurrent director of the Bureau of Local Employment, which is responsible for promoting full and decent employment through policy and program development. She is also a member of the Philippine delegation in negotiating various free trade agreements specific to the movement of natural persons. She is engaged in measures towards employment and economic recovery, particularly on the National Employment Recovery Strategy. Currently serving as the Assistant Secretary of the Department of Labor and Employment, everyone please welcome Ms. Dominique Rubia Tutay.
Thank you, Ria, and good morning. Thank you also to Globe and everyone tuning in to this leg of Regional Insights and Strategies for Enterprises, or R.I.S.E, on digitalization and regional expansion in the IT-BPO industry. Allow me to discuss briefly what the government has been doing in response to the impacts of the COVID-19 pandemic and the necessary steps we need to take to empower our workforce to thrive in the post-pandemic future, particularly in the IT-BPM industry. First, let's hinge this discussion on what is considered the national government's master plan towards employment and economic recovery. The National Employment Recovery Strategy, or NERS, NERS 2021-2022. Anchored on the updated Philippine Development Plan 2017 to 2022, Recharge PH and ILO's Decent Work Framework, the NERS was constituted to address the social and economic issues arising from the lingering pandemic and takes a whole-of-society approach in the development of a national strategy that creates a policy environment that encourages generation of more employment and entrepreneurship opportunities, improves employability and productivity of workers, and provides support to existing and emerging businesses. The NERS Task Force was institutionalized by President Rodrigo Roa Duterte, who signed Executive Order Number 140 on June 24, 2021. The NERS Task Force is chaired by the DTI, with DOLE and TESDA as co-chairs. Together, they are joined by other national government agencies whose programs directly impact the labor market through job creation, assistance for businesses, and training of workers or would-be workers. Employer sector, labor groups, and civil society are also topped by the NERS Task Force. The NERS Task Force is guided by this framework, which puts businesses and workers at the center of a whole-of-society approach to achieve the following outcomes in an enabling environment supported by good governance and infrastructures. These outcomes include restarting economic activities, restoring business confidence, upgrading and retooling of our workforce, and facilitating labor market access. In this recovery strategy, our goal is to provide an enabling environment for businesses to thrive above the pandemic challenges and open opportunities for Filipinos so no one is left behind. Our assessment of key employment generators, or KEGs, as identified in the Department's Jobs Fit 2022 report, saw industries that stand to gain, lose, or remain uncertain amid this pandemic, as validated by the recent labor force survey of the Philippine Statistics Authority. As one of our key employment generators, the IT-BPM industry is still considered one of the most important drivers of the economy, generating 1.32 million jobs and contributing needed revenues for our coffers amounting to $26.7 billion in 2020. As the sector offers the most flexibility to do work, Around 87% of the IT-BPM companies are expecting to see between 5 to 15% growth this year, based on an industry-wide survey carried by IBPAP. One of the key legislations that is seen to boost employment recovery is the Corporate Recovery and Tax Incentives for Enterprises, or CREATE law. CREATE is expected to boost investment in the Philippines, bring our corporate tax rate closer to our ASEAN peers, and enhance our fiscal incentive system to help attract more foreign direct investments, which will help generate more jobs in the country and accelerate recovery. As the CREATE includes provisions on employment generation, around 200 billion pesos of new investments that can generate 1.4 million to 2 million incremental jobs is expected based on the Department of Trade and Industry's projection. Early this year, Labor Department supported on calls of the IT-BPM sector to allow the adoption of a work-from-home arrangement because of the pandemic, considering the contributions of the sector towards job generation and employment recovery. In August 2021, the Fiscal Incentives Review Board allowed the sector to adopt 90% work-from-home arrangement until end of March next year. The policy was set by the FIRB to address the work constraints brought about by the pandemic in accordance with the provision of the implementing rules and regulations of CREATE law, which gives an IPA the authority to implement temporary measures as long as these are approved by the FIRB to help registered business entities recover from a pandemic, national emergencies, or major disasters. Subsequently, the FIRB issued a memorandum enjoining registered business entities in the IT-BPM sector to submit their respective investment promotion agencies, their total number of employees, and the number of employees under the work-from-home arrangements, and a detailed list of the laptops, desktops, and other equipment and assets brought out of the economic or free-port zones. On the area of safety and health, we continue to put a premium on occupational safety and health in the workplace, which is paramount to the DOLE's mandate. The DOLE ensures safe and humane working conditions through the issuance of various guidelines, the latest of which are advisories on the prevention and administration of COVID-19 vaccinations in the workplace. We reiterate our call to all workers and businesses to continue the strict implementation of the minimum public health standards. We urged all workers and priority groups to get vaccinated and help minimize social and economic disruptions caused by COVID-19. Both the pandemic and the Fourth Industrial Revolution, or FIRE, heightened the volatility, uncertainty, complexity, and ambiguity of the world of work. The pandemic has accelerated the adoption of new technologies that improve communication and interconnectivity and allowed large-scale and integrated automation of industrial processes. The double-tiered impact we made mention earlier, which have corresponding structural changes and trends in the labor market, including the rise of remote or hybrid work, the gig economy and digital careers, the need for retooling and upskilling, and distance and blended learning. In order to facilitate labor market access, existing employment facilitation services of the department were enhanced to cater to the new normal to reach more workers, be it in the IT-BPM sector or other industries. Among the platforms made available are our Trabajo, Negosyo at Kabuhayan or TNK webpage, virtual job fair, online career fair, presence of job boards like the PhilJobNet, updated labor market information reports, use of social media, but of course we still have our traditional referral and placement being implemented by our public employment service offices nationwide. In October 2020, it could be recalled that the DOLE inked an agreement with the IBPAP to boost employment facilitation of displaced returning OFWs and to expand our labor market information sources by granting each other access to relevant information. Based on the IBPAP's closing report, the three objectives were reached. Industry players were able to gather profiles of the returning OFWs who they contacted for potential employment. There is also an increased awareness among the repatriated overseas Filipinos about the potential career opportunities and growth in joining the Philippine IT-BPM industry, and there was connection initiated between the returning OFWs and IBPAP industry members as industry players' activity reached out to them. ROFs, or the returning overseas Filipinos, were also invited to the IT-BPM career awareness fairs conducted by IBPAP. We are also reaching out to IBPAP to assist tourism workers transition to opportunities available in the industry and to other job-generating sectors, not just in terms of employment facilitation, but also in terms of upskilling and retooling, which is being conducted by the Technical Education and Skills Development Authority. Workers and employers alike need to invest in human capital development to reskill and upskill both their technical and soft skills and ensure that Filipino workers thrive in the new normal. LinkedIn, in its 5th Workplace Learning Report, identified the most important skills for this year, top 2 of which are labeled as power skills. First, we need to build our resilience muscle to help us adapt to the rapid-fire change. And second, we need to learn new ways of working and collaborating in a virtual world. Other identified skills, such as communication across remote and or distributed teams, emotional intelligence, cross-functional collaboration, leading through change, creativity, among others, underscore the importance of soft skills in the future of work. Part also of the workings of the Nurse Task Force is its partnership with the private sector, which has committed to the creation of 1 million jobs for 2021. We welcome contribution in our effort to recover lost employment because of this pandemic. On June 30, 2021, some nurse member agencies headed by the Department of Labor and Employment, along with leading business groups, joined forces to sign the Memorandum of Understanding on the partnership project called Reform, Rebound, Recover, 1 million jobs for 2021. Conceived in partnership with the Employers Confederation of the Philippines, the project will deploy workers in participating industries and make positive strides in the labor sector. Export and business processing industries is expected to absorb some 70,000 workers directly and another 300,000 indirectly through this project. For its part, the government pledges to intervene and address challenges employers face when hiring during the pandemic. This includes sourcing of vaccines for workers and addressing difficulties in processing the pre-employment documentary requirements. To thrive in the new normal requires evolving and adapting to the fast transforming world of work. We encourage job seekers and workers to take advantage of this opportunity to upskill and reskill and prepare ourselves when our economy bounces back. DOLE's many programs and services, as well as those of the other Nurse Task Force member agencies, are at your disposal during these challenging times. Rest assured that the DOLE will continue to work with various government agencies and support initiatives such as the Task Group on Economic Recovery or TIGER and the National Employment Recovery Strategy NERS Task Force towards the safe reopening of the economy and sustained improvements of our labor market. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ASEC Nikki, for graciously sharing your expertise with us. I know it's very encouraging for all of us to know that we have somebody like you in the Department of Labor. Thank you very much. Now, we've heard from two brilliant leaders in the industry. Now, let's learn more about building world-class talents and businesses in the regions from our next speaker, who is the founder and CEO of Spring Valley, the so-called Silicon Valley of the Philippines. He has been the president of the Philippine Software Industry Association, or PSIA, since 2016, and has contributed immensely to the country's growth and development in the technology and innovation sectors. He leads the nation's promotions and marketing efforts with successful inbound and outbound missions to Asia and other parts of the world, and has supported various engagements covering talent development and countryside development. Everyone, let's all meet Globe Business's newest ambassador, Mr. Jonathan Villasuryaga. Watch this.
My name is Jonathan Villasuryaga, and this is my business diary. Let me tell you about Spring Valley. Spring Valley is Asia's version of Silicon Valley. The Philippines is going to play a vital role in the digital transformation of the entire world, and Spring Valley is going to be a venue where innovators and technologists could congregate in order to create technology for good. We found our partner with Globe Business. And a vision as big as Spring Valley would need to have partners that are both reliable and compatible. Reliable in terms of providing the connections that would enable our business to succeed, and compatibility with our core value, which is one, love for this country, and second, a deep appreciation of technology and innovation. These are very exciting times for Spring Valley and for the Republic of the Philippines. We are now at the precipice of realizing the first Filipino-owned technology company that will have its own township. And we intend to help all the founders in the Philippines by empowering them and by providing them a venue where they could be the best version of themselves. And I intend to continue this journey together with Globe Business. Philippines, it's time for us to lead.
Thank you, Ria, and a Globe morning to everyone. This is Jonathan Villasuryaga, the President of the Philippine Software Industry Association, and also your Globe Ambassador. I was tasked to present on building world-class talent and businesses in the regions. As you very well know, the Philippines, being an archipelago, has so many beautiful places, and these places are also teeming with talent. Talent that would help the country build world-class companies. So one question that I always ask those who work with me in Spring Valley, as well as friends and acquaintances, is what is your why? And apparently, for Spring Valley, we have three aspects that answer our why, which is our purpose of being. The first one is actually the industry academia. Let me talk about this for a few moments. First and foremost, when it comes to software development, the industry hire rate is ridiculously low. It goes as far down as 1% to 3%. So meaning out of 100 graduates of computer science or IT or software engineering, only 3 of them could actually make the grade and join the workforce.
So this becomes a little bit more pronounced as you go to the countryside. So that's our first why. Why are we doing this? Because we wanted to address the industry academic gap. The second is inequitable distribution of opportunities. Again, let me revert back to demographics of the Philippines. We have more than 7,000 plus islands. And apparently, when the last survey that we ran was that only 30% of investments, most especially in the IT-BPM sector, go out of Metro Manila, the National Capital Region, or Metro Cebu. Now, the funny thing is, 70% of the graduates are not coming from the National Capital Region, nor is it coming from Metro Cebu. Meaning to say, other areas in the Philippines produce all of these talent, and they automatically move into these major business hubs because that's where the jobs are. Again, this is a clear reflection of the inequitable distribution of opportunities, most especially for the countryside. The third one is something that is really, really close to my heart, and this is the service-oriented mindset of the Filipinos. What do I mean by this? If we look at the entire IT-BPM sector, the largest chunk is actually from the contact center space. Apparently, we do a lot of beautiful things for a lot of geographies, but we have never really looked at the full potential of creating companies, Philippine IT-BPM companies, that would become regional and eventually global players. So all of these things are the ones that keep me up at night. And I keep on thinking, how do we now answer these particular whys? This is the reason why we concocted Spring Valley, which is the only technology company in the Philippines that will have its own township. This is going to be a place where technologists and innovators all over the country can converge in order for us, for them to create technology for good. Our vision is very simple. We will lead the nation in creating a digital Philippines, which is further manifested by our mission, which is to create technology that will contribute to the increase of impactful solutions from the country, establish partnerships such as the one we have with Globe, with leading technology companies in the Republic of the Philippines. The third one is very close to the topic at hand, which is educate the youth and the workforce in new skills and platforms that will significantly contribute to the nation's competitive advantage. The next one is to build the facilities that will empower and support the aspirations of technologists and innovators of the Republic. And last but not the least, contrive a business environment that will encourage technopreneurship and innovation, especially in the countryside. Now, with this vision and missions, we now look at how do we now approach the market. The value proposition of the Valley is very simple. We have our software development shop. We have partnerships in technology education, which is, again, very much related to how do you build world-class talent. And with this, we actually aim for professional tracks, and the proof of the pudding, as they always say, when it comes to education, is in the testing and certification. We have strategic partnerships, which is one of the reasons why we pursue being part of the Globe Partner Network. And last but not the least, since we're the only company that will have our own township, there's also the real estate component. Right now, there's still a huge demand for places where people could actually feel safe as they go about in their work. And that is one of the things that Spring Valley wants to offer to all the companies in the Philippines. This is now our vision of a township wherein people could actually feel the digital aspect, living in a digital environment that would have smart living components in terms of security, transportation and logistics, property and waste management, energy, of course, and smart lifestyle. The emphasis is going to be on eco-friendly technology solutions, which is pretty much aligned with our mantra, which is technology for good. Spring Valley is part of a very huge initiative called the Negros Occidental Innovation Island. And let me spend a few minutes on this one because, again, this is aligned with the topic in terms of creating world-class talent that will produce and empower world-class Filipino companies. The Negros Occidental Innovation Island's vision is to enhance the business environment of Negros Occidental by leveraging new technologies and innovation. With this, the biggest manifestation of the program is the creation of Negros Occidental Innovation Centers, or the NICE facilities. So we are going to pepper NICE facilities all over Negros Occidental so that those from the north could actually go there and use that as an incubation space and work there. And those from the south could actually do the same. With, of course, the main innovation center being embedded in Spring Valley. Each innovation center would have broadcast facilities, classrooms and laboratories, and then production areas. Why is it important that we address these three requirements? Well, number one, we don't really know where the faculty is really going to come from. Hence, it's important that we have broadcast-ready facilities so that we could spread this across all the NICE centers all over Negros Occidental. The classrooms and laboratories are for the learners, but eventually they would need to translate this into production and eventually a means of livelihood for all of these learners. That's the reason why our approach is very simple. We are training people on academic disciplines based on the current skills gap of the market. Meaning to say, what are companies looking for? They're looking for front-end specialists, for back-end specialists across several programming languages such as Python, Java, PHP, .NET, Node.js. There's also a very huge gap in terms of technology support roles, business analysts, quality assurance specialists, project managers, and back office specialists. And thanks to the pandemic, there has been a renewed requirement for IT infrastructure specialists. These are IT security experts, those that provide hardware and technical support, as well as data center operations. Let's not forget that there is a dire need that all of these talent would have very strong soft skills, meaning communication is going to be world-class. They have skills in terms of reporting and visualization. There's skills in terms of collaboration and teaming. And last but not the least, mentorship and coaching. And the last one is actually in terms of something that I find very attractive. You know, the Filipinos are very creative and very talented. And we at Spring Valley decided to create a very huge focus in terms of animation and game development. Our talent environment, just to prove that we walk the talk, is basically anchored on, number one, our partnerships with the academy. So practically all of the universities within Region 6 we've already partnered with. Oh, and by the way, we also have a very strong strategic synergy with Asia Pacific College, which is again supported by IBM and SM Foundation. So this list keeps on getting bigger every month as we reach out to our academic partners. When I was president of the National ICT Confederation of the Philippines, we always used one particular acronym, and that is, let's create MAGIC. And MAGIC actually stands for Making Academe, Government, and Industry Collaborate. And that's exactly the secret to creating a world-class company. Even with our humble structure now, we basically try to reach out to as many schools and offer opportunities. One of them is an initiative that we spearheaded, which is creating an online OJT event. So Spring Valley organized the first ever Technology and Innovation Immersion Program to encourage students from all over the country to engage in IT companies for their OJT and internship programs. This is not just for Spring Valley. This is basically for the entire community of technology companies in the country today. And if you look at our current manpower, they're from all over. We have created such an attractive value proposition for technologists and innovators to actually get out of their respective locations and join us here in Negros Occidental. So the message of the Negros Occidental Innovation Island is very simple. Come to Negros Occidental. Setting up your business here is as easy as A, B, C, D, and E. We have an abundant talent pool. We have a business-friendly environment. It's a cost-efficient location. It's a digitally enhanced environment. And last but not the least, it's environmental friendly because Negros Occidental is also home to numerous solar farms. How do we now create all of this talent, transform them into world-class talent, and build world-class companies? There's actually 9 rules to live by. Number 1 is to set a clear future state for a shared goal. We at Spring Valley have defined this quite well, and now this is not only my shared goal, but this is now a shared goal of the entire organization. But it shouldn't stop there. It should also engage all employees in the shared goal and create an empowering culture. I always tell people I am the single biggest point of success. I am also the single biggest point of failure. Hence, I need to spread around and engage all of the employees across all different levels when it comes to realizing the shared goal that we have. Number 3 is to have a flexible organizational structure that meets organizational needs. Now, we from the software development space, we have this methodology called Agile, which basically takes away all of the fluff and focuses on the things that are important. In the case of software development, creating a working software. And that's basically the call out for number 3 in terms of creating a flexible organizational structure. Number 4 is to have a defined continuous improvement framework. Most especially in the technology space, probably the same as in the telco space. Technology changes very, very fast. And it fluctuates from left to right and back again. So it is important to actually get ahead of the curve and make sure that your continuous improvement framework is rock solid and that everybody believes and supports this particular framework. The next one is to have an exceptional process standards and continually strive to improve them. What does this mean? In the world of technology, procedures are things that will basically guarantee your success or your failure. When you create process standards, you must also make sure, aligned with continuous improvement, constantly review how you could improve on them so that you could be on your way to becoming a world-class organization. Sixth is innovate and challenge the industry norms. We went against the grain. I remember 2016 when we started building Spring Valley and Region 6. One of the things that was mentioned to me is that it's not going to fly. Nobody's going to support that. Apparently, it takes a pandemic to realize the value proposition of such an organization. Number 7 is be customer-centric and have great communication. I'm very proud that Globe actually embodies this, and this is one value that we both share in terms of putting the customer front and center. Number 8 is be sustainable and ethical and act with humility, most especially if you're already there, if you're already making it. Last but not the least, it's probably one of the most important pieces of advice. Benchmark yourself against other world leaders. When you choose organizations that you're going to benchmark on, make sure that you don't aim low. Aim for the highest possible benchmark. With that, I'd actually like to leave our audience today with a saying from Michael Gerber, which is building a world-class company is a commitment to the integration of passion, purpose, and practice. Have a globe morning, everyone, and thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing with us your expertise, Mr. Villasuryaga, on how to build world-class talents and businesses in the region. Truly, your journey to founding Spring Valley Tech Corp, enabling the rise of innovators, and envisioning a stronger IT workforce in the country is an inspiration to us all. For many, many years, we've been hearing about how to decongest Metro Manila. It is so refreshing to see your plan, which is so exciting and so comprehensive. And with talks of innovation in Spring Valley, we were introduced to the Western Visayas region of Bago City in Negros Occidental. Now, let's move to the center of the Visayas region and hear it from our next speaker, who hails from the Queen City of the South, Cebu. Our speaker is a strong advocate for Philippine industrial development, most especially in the IT-BPO and electronics export industries. He firmly believes in the necessity of innovation and ecosystems development as a way of fighting the tyranny of the S-curve, thereby ensuring the long-term growth and prosperity of industries. Here to discuss regional trends and insights in the IT-BPO industry, please welcome the president of Cebu IT-BPM organization, or CIB.O. Give a warm virtual applause to Mr. Fert Cabatania.
Good morning. Today's Globe event uses the acronym R.I.S.E, which stands for Regional Insights Strategies for Enterprises. Coincidentally, this year's Cebu Chamber Cebu Business Month uses the same name R.I.S.E for one, where for its IT-BPM-centric event, R.I.S.E stands for Revolutionize, Inclusion, Solidarity, and Empower. Not to be left behind, our new member, Mandani Bay, is holding its webinar series named R.I.S.E, which, understandably, given its real estate business, suggests skywise buildings. But given the context of the times, it is also a call to rise above the current challenges. The decisions made in using the name R.I.S.E by these three sample business entities were obviously not synchronized nor coordinated, but their coincidental use clearly suggests a communal desire to overcome challenges and difficulties. Last July, during CIB.O's annual summit, we decided to take that idea a step higher, a step further, by calling the event the Next Level Play. We said that the IT-BPM last year already demonstrated that we could rise above the challenges of COVID-19. Therefore, it is time for us to look beyond that and determine what else can we do. CIB.O as an organization decided to give itself a BHAG, or Big, Hairy, Audacious Goal. We told ourselves that by taking the next level play, we shall gain superiority in 10 years. I shall be sharing with you, number one, what are CIB.O's trusts, and number two, I share with you some reflections applicable to the rest of this team and the Philippines. 4 years ago, we decided to adopt the vision of making Cebu a choice IT-BPM location for higher value services. To realize that vision, we gave ourselves the mission of developing and promoting our strengths in order to sustain the growth of our IT-BPM industry. This year, our strategic intent is to gain superiority in 10 years. Today, our membership roster contains some of the big names that are also found in Metro Manila, such as Concentric, Sykes, Tech Mahindra, Accenture, IBM, etc. But we also have members who are not in Metro Manila, such as Lexmark, Daimler-Benz, Bombardier, Alliance Software, of which we are very proud because Alliance is a local Cebuano tech company that has grown big. We also have a member that chose to make Cebu as its East Asian regional office. Wipro, one of India's top tech companies, chose Cebu as its regional office with a footprint that includes Manila, China, Malaysia, etc. We estimate our current direct employment at around 180,000, which then puts Cebu at around 13% of the national IT-BPM industry. We also estimate our per capita revenue generation at $20,000, consistent with the national average. The chart on the right identifies the various segments within our industry and a rough approximation of their relative sizes. We illustrate here the kind of growth that we want to see. While contact centers are expected to continue showing growth, their growth is expected to merely track the average world economic growth, with some significant possible downside, depending upon how automation plays out and how we intend to develop along with that trend. On the other hand, we do see higher growth potential in back office support, shared services, and healthcare management services. Software engineering also offers good growth prospect potential, but will require a much stronger development and improvement in the education/academia. The most important metric that we have to focus on is the per capita revenue generation. If we say we want to be a choice IT-BPM location for higher value services, what that implies is that we need to target the per capita revenue generation to go up from the current $20,000 per head to at least $40,000 per head. Where did I get $40,000 per head? I got inspiration from our big brother, India. Throughout the world, India and the Philippines are said to be the leaders, with India at number 1 and the Philippines at far number 2. India's big advantage is its well-developed IT education infrastructure that churns out world-class engineers, scientists, and technologies. As a result, the IT-BPM industry is 7 times bigger than ours in terms of dollar revenues, but only 3.5 times bigger in terms of direct employment. And that's how their per capita revenue generation is more than double ours. With a very strong local university system, India is also able to develop an IT-BPM industry that is 70% local. That is definitely one major source of strength of India. Already, that strength is used to churn out more than 60 unicorns today. Last July, during our annual Transformation Summit, our big brother Achyuta Ghosh, who is the head of NASSCOM's industry research, was our guest speaker. He offered us some suggestions on how Cebu can be a choice for higher value tech services. Note that he didn't use the term IT-BPM. Instead, he used the term tech industry. The reason is that NASSCOM's membership and scope includes not only IT-BPM, but also software engineering, research and development, hardware, and e-commerce. Thus, for an apple-to-apple comparison, we should ideally also include R&D, of which we have very little, e-commerce, of which we have a lot, but more as users of platforms rather than makers of platforms, and hardware, which we have under the auspices of SAPI, the Semiconductor Electronics Industry Association of the Philippines, which introduces some complications to the per capita revenue generation because of the local value-added differences. In any case, fortunately, we avoid such complications because Mr. Ghosh's recommendations are actually applicable regardless of which segments we decide to focus on. Number 1, he recommended that we prepare for the future of work. Number 2, that we identify our industry positioning in new high-growth areas. Number 3, develop our talent model basis industry positioning. Number 4, build partnerships. Number 5, encourage local entrepreneurship. Our decision to go into RPA, or Robotics Process Automation projects, satisfies Mr. Ghosh's recommendation number 1, prepare for the future of work. Our focus on health system management, insurance, general finance and accounting, and other operations satisfies his recommendation number 2, identify your industry positioning in its new high-growth areas. Our decision to go into RPA, a development that many see as a threat, we actually satisfy recommendation number 3, develop our talent model basis industry positioning. Our decision to adopt the triple helix strategy where industry, academia, and government closely collaborate satisfies recommendation number 4, build partnerships. Our special attention on local companies satisfied recommendation number 5, encourage local entrepreneurship. Now, speaking of local companies, earlier I mentioned Alliance Software. In our Innovation and Ecosystem Development Committee, they are working on a project called Interviewer Bot and Time In, Time Out with image processing together with CIP.U, and we'll have their project funded by the R.I.S.E. Also, just 2 days ago, we added our new member, Caballo, a local company that is engaged in home health care management and QA management. They are developing a data science and AI project with AIM and the R.I.S.E. Further satisfying Mr. Go's recommendation, C.O is also working with AIM, which is TPI's principal technology partner in the development and execution of the National AI Strategy Roadmap. C.O is working towards acquiring a satellite branch of the National Center for AI Research, or NCARE. We are also in the final stages of preparing our execution plans for workforce development or talent development. Well, the innovation projects will take a few years to get done. The talent development projects are what we're urgently implementing to provide immediate short-term results with high impact. The Talent Development Committee will start implementing their programs next month, November, and will have a formal launch, Big Bang, on January 2032. C.O's course offering will include both non-technical as well as technical courses. Project champions have been recruited from among the member company representatives. We are also eagerly awaiting finalization of TESDA's Tulong sa Trabaho, a program for which C.O has been designated as the industry board for IT-BPM in Region 7. As such, we shall be the one who administers implementation, which will benefit our displaced kababayans who lost their job as a result of the pandemic. This program shall provide scholarship for those who used to work in troubled industries like tourism, retail, and other services, and those repatriated OFWs who would now wish to be reskilled and upskilled for employment in the IT-BPM industry. One of C.O's big advocacies is developing more businesses, channeling more investments into cities and municipalities outside the Metro Cebu. This advocacy was originally put up when Metro Cebu's congestion became a disincentive to new major IT-BPM and other industrial investments. The COVID-19 pandemic really neatly dovetailed on that advocacy because congestion is one of the major factors that lead to high-speed transmission of the virus. Thus, we anticipate work-from-home arrangement to continue for at least the next 2 years or until such time that better vaccination and other modes of living with the virus shall have been put in place. Another major public push is needed in the area of automation and digitization of public services. We need everyone to help push the implementation of RTAC, the Anti-Red Tape Act, of which automation and digitization are major enablers. During the Transformation Summit last July, AIM's Dr. Eric Calicara made a great presentation about how big data science is already gaining major inroads into the Philippine business and industrial landscape. And we learned that though there is still a major need to develop more big data science capabilities and AI capabilities, not everyone needs to be a data scientist. There are also many other ways of participating in the digital transformation movement. Data training, for example, digital marketing is another, e-commerce operational stations is another, and so on and so forth. And this leads us to the so-called gig economy. This field is so vast and open to so many skill sets and specialties, from the deeply technical to the simple clinical work. What is badly needed is the closing of the digital divide such that more and more people can have easier access to the tools and opportunities offered by digital transformation. Cebu, before it became an IT-BPM regional hub, has for a long time been a hub for shipbuilding, export manufacturing, logistics, and tourism. But sadly, we haven't yet maximized our use of technology to boost these other sectors. For example, in tourism, are tourists now able to seamlessly buy online tickets regardless of shipping line? In shipbuilding, Cebu is now the only remaining major shipbuilding in the country. Last week, Balamban's Austral again delivered a giant trimaran bound for the Canary Islands, the Spanish territory in North Africa. I'm glad to note that some of the drafting and project management tasks of shipbuilding are now outsourced also in Cebu, thus slowly expanding the ecosystem. Our intent is to hasten the development of that ecosystem. Let us also figure out what does it really take for us to produce our own unicorns. For the past 15 years or so, we've gone through numerous exercises of doing tech talks, hackathons, pitch, boot camps, startups, venture capital promotions. But the reality is, we still don't have enough startups and we don't have a unicorn at all. I have two sets of recommendations. One, we need to successfully meld tech and business, starting from the university level all the way to product development and commercialization. Secondly, while the Filipino diaspora has made its presence felt in practically all corners of the world or the globe, there has been a limited return of expertise and business creation. China and India, before the pandemic, had for at least 2 decades been the source of the highest number of international students for the US universities. In the 90s, for example, China produced some 25,000 PhD graduates from US universities, majority of whom were in science, technology, and engineering. No doubt many of those PhDs ended up producing China's 200 plus unicorns. Ditto for India. However, what makes the Indian unicorn phenomenon different from China are two things. Number one, the recent acceleration. Out of the more than 60, some 13 were produced in the first 5 months of 2021 alone. A result of the pandemic, they were able to maximize solutions for the crisis. Number two, two-thirds of the 60 plus of unicorns of India operate from outside of India, mostly in Silicon Valley. That again, to me, underscores the great importance of international connections and international connectedness. So, what can we learn from that? We have a lot of Filipinos in the US, we have a lot of Filipinos in Europe and Australia. Are they helping us, one, provide the business savvy and the technology to put up our unicorns? Are they enabling us to acquire that international connectedness, international connections to be in sync with the world business? Because unicorn building means you have to scale up, and scaling up means you have to have a big market. In closing, back to our BHAG, our strategic intent, gain superiority in 10 years. The apparent steep requirements of challenges to get there may appear formidable and daunting, but that's exactly the point. Give ourselves a big kick in the behind so we finally get moving faster than before. Not to do so will simply bring us to the same old plodding ways of complacency and mediocrity. We need to learn to take excellence and superiority as our standards for us to realize our potential. Thank you and good morning.
Thank you for sharing your insights and knowledge on the ongoing trends of the IT-BPO industry in the regions. And I love what you said in the end that, we have to kick ourselves. We have to light up that fire of desire so we can do everything to reach our potential. Now, let's move on to our last topic this morning. Let's dive deeper and learn more about the role of telcos for IT-BPO companies. Our last speaker has 10 years work of work experience in the APJ region in his 20-plus year stint with Wipro Limited. And during these years, he has managed different portfolios of service delivery, transition, process excellence, greenfield setup, and now leads the geo delivery for Wipro Limited in ASEAN. He has a rich and diversified experience in managing businesses in 3 international locations that cover multiple customers and people in complex technology landscapes. He is also the International Relations Trustee and Vice President of Cebu's most prominent IT-BPM industry association, Cebu IT-BPM, or otherwise known as CIB.go or CIB.o. Our last speaker this morning, but by no means the last, please welcome Country Head and General Manager of Wipro Philippines Inc., Mr. Asim Roy.
Thank you, Ria, for that quick introduction. I appreciate that. Okay, so we are talking about leading the new normal, and this was pretty much driven by a combination of technologies, and not to forget, ICT played a very, very important role in enabling those solutions. So before I get into the meat of the matter, I'll just give you a bit brief about Wipro. So, Wipro as an organization, we are a leading global information technology consulting and business solution services company, a company recognized globally for its comprehensive portfolio of services, strong commitment to sustainability, and good corporate citizenship. We have over 200,000 employees serving customers across the 6 continents. And I'm happy to share that in Philippines, we are pretty much nearing a landmark of almost 10,000 employees. In very few days, we should be meeting that number. In Cebu, or I should say in Visayas possibly, we are the largest private employer and growing. So thanks a lot to the support that we have received from the province, from the city, and everybody who contributed in terms of talent, infrastructure, telco connectivity. I think that has played an important role. So what did we do? I think we partnered very successfully with telcos in their ICT offerings. What you see out here is pretty much the bedrock of the support that we received from telcos, including Globe and other providers who has been there in the business. Connectivity being number 1, cloud, cybersecurity, business applications, mobility, voice, and data center. So I'm not going to get too much into details about factors like cybersecurity, business application, voice, cloud, and data center, simply because we ourselves are an IT services company. We have our own expertise on that. But what was most impressive was that with the turnaround time in which telcos came back and they had these offerings, they shared with these offerings with that, and I think we reviewed them. Next, I would say is the mobility solutions. Okay, on the mobility solutions, this was never part of our previous or pre-pandemic, requirements. But when the pandemic hit us, I think the home prepaid Wi-Fi, which were almost redundant in our kind of business, everybody had moved to either working from office or their own devices. I think they came back. Which, like I said, the prepaid Wi-Fi's and postpaid, Wi-Fi connections made a significant difference in work from home. It was a big game changer. I would compliment, in fact, the leadership of the telco companies and the relationship managers for Globe. They were of great help in ensuring that we get our inventories on time. There were days when we were looking at delivery in almost next business day or within 48 hours, and I know having those hectic discussions with your leadership, but thankfully there was a quick turnaround. I know there was a shortage in the supply chain. Suddenly everybody was looking for data cards and dongles, but thankfully we were delivered some 3,500 what you call HPW kits and over 2,500 data LTE cards. It was all delivered in a short period of time, and every time I think we went back and we asked for more, we were able to get those supplies, and that kind of made sure that every time we have a ramp happening or there's a requirement for us to ship out devices, we had relevant devices available to us. So, and that's pretty much on connectivity. I think I would also like to compliment that there's the flexibility that came through in terms of broadband connections, whereby broadband connections were primarily limited to more of consumer business, but the enterprise business was able to kind of take up that baton of providing us additional support. They added the DSL and fiber connectivity as part of their enterprise bundle, especially the DSL one. I know not many enterprises, cover that, but that kind of again was a game changer. And not just to that, I think even in a larger spectrum, I would say even in the consumer space, we have seen broadband connectivity being made available much easier way. I think gone are the days when we are running out of POPs, but over the last 1 year, I believe the investment that has been done by telcos in ensuring that fiber and the broadband connectivity is enhanced will definitely position not just Cebu but also Philippines in the league of countries which provide for great connectivity. And like I said, we all know that data is the new oil, and to mine that oil, you need the right connectivity and the mobility. So hopefully, I think this should really go a long way in ensuring that we have a robust business continuity. What is amazing is that not just we as a customer or a partner for telcos, I think we had a lot of accolades that came from our customers, our clients, who were amazed by the speed and flexibility with which we were able to work from home and work from anywhere for that matter. We had agents who from Cebu, they moved to Davao, they moved to CDO, they moved to Bantayan, and everybody was connected. So I think while the initial part had hiccups, but I think over the last 1 year, this has sustained, and the customers also have taken note of it. It's unfortunate that, we had to get into a regular ECQ, GCQs every now and then, and more so in the Luzon part. But thankfully, what kept all of us alive and kicking and connected was the very fact that how telcos were able to ensure that they deliver on their SLAs, they are prompt, their relationship managers are there to support us. I think that was one fact that kind of made a major difference in how we progressed and sustained through this pandemic. Moving on. So this is possibly the proof of pudding. I think I spoke about how the IT-BPO industry in general has progressed over the last 1 year. So if you hear the IB-PAP, they'll talk about around 2 to 3% increase in the overall headcount. If you talk to CIBO, you'll get an update that almost 20,000 new jobs were added in Cebu. And I'm really happy to share that, over the last 1 year, we would have added at least roughly 1,300 to 2,000 jobs. When I say 1,300 is a net increase in our headcount that has happened over the last few months itself. I'm not even counting the headcount that we got in 2020. So that's the phenomenal growth that we have seen, thanks to this WFX setup, something that we are extremely passionate about. Apart from the technology solution that were enabled both by our partners within Wipro, we bank big time on our telco partners to ensure that, that mobility and connectivity solutions are there. So at this point of time, like the way I look at, we are almost seeing a phenomenal growth in our business across Cebu and Manila, more so in Cebu. And that goes down to a lot to the effort and support we received from Cebu as a province, from people out here, the talent pool, and definitely not to forget the infrastructure and the telecom services that are being provided. So very happy with the progress that we have made. And like I said, data is the new oil, and how fast you churn this oil will make all the difference. So thanks for keeping us connected, not just for our customer, not just for our business, but also for our employees who needed more and more of that personal touch to take care of their well-being, their mental health, and their wellness. I think this phenomenal change in technology has made all the difference.
Thank you very much, Mr. Roy. I'm going to remember that data is the new oil. And thank you to all our speakers. I'm sure the audience has learned so much from your presentations, but I'm sure there's also still so much more that they'd like to know. So everyone, this is your chance to ask questions. To send in your questions, especially Globe Business product related inquiries, please type in your question followed by your name and company in the Q&A button that you see on your Zoom screens right now, and we will try our very best to answer your questions during this segment. All right, just follow the prompts on your screen. That is pretty straightforward. For now, let us welcome the panelists for our fireside chat. Again, we have Attorney Wiki, we have ASEC Nikki, we have Jonathan, Perth, and Asim. So hello, everyone. Hello, leaders. We all know that you have extremely hectic schedules, so we appreciate your time with us today. And in your talks earlier, we heard current insights and trends of the IT-BPO industry. And now we'd like to pick your brains a little more for our fireside chat. Are you all ready? Yes? All right. Okay, this is going to be very, very exciting, I think. For this morning's fireside chat, we will be asking our panelists about three important facets of the IT-BPO industry. That's namely people, process, and solutions. So let's begin. We all know that people, or the workforce, is one of the most important assets in the IT-BPO industry. So my first question goes to ASEC Nikki. ASEC, during your talk earlier, you discussed human capital, health and safety, reskilling and upskilling in the regions. And one of the things that you discussed mentioned programs of the government supporting the growing number of employees in the IT-BPO industry. And we heard that 11 national government agencies, including the DOLE and the PRC, forged an agreement for the Philippine Skills Framework. And this was an initiative of the Department of Trade and Industry towards building the country's human capital that happened during an online ceremony or ceremonial signing. I think that was held on June 25th of this year. So similar to what you discussed, this collaboration is aimed at upskilling, reskilling, and equipping the workforce with new digital skills to prepare them for the future of the workforce. So ASEC Nikki, what we'd like to know is, what is the status of this campaign now? Is it going as expected? If so, why? If not, why not?
Thanks, Ria, for that question. The Philippine Skills Framework development is actually ongoing from the time that we have signed the MOU. We have already identified sectors, one of which is the IT-BPM sector, together with logistics and supply chain. You have the manufacturing, you have construction, food, agriculture, tourism, health and wellness, and also creative industry, which is also linked to the IT-BPM sector. So with that, there's already a PSF being developed for the logistics and supply chain, and then next in line would be the IT-BPM sector together with the construction sector. Now, the Department of Information and Communications Technology is on top of this specific sector for the IT-BPM, and this is also being funded by the Department of Trade and Industry's Competitiveness and Innovation Group. So that is the update for today insofar as the Philippine Skills Framework development is concerned.
All right, thank you for that update, ASEC. Our next question will be for Asim. Now, one of the threats of the IT-BPO workforce is automation, which we spoke about earlier. Outsourcing companies recognize the rise of automation and its purpose in eradicating mundane, repetitive work. With this, service providers focus more on upskilling and talent development to help them stay competitive. So, Asim, can you share with us how Wipro tackles this workforce challenge, and how does your company ensure that your workforce is evolving during this time of automation?
Thank you, Ria. I think that's the most frequently asked question nowadays with all the emerging technologies. So, we in Wipro, I'll say, understand the evolving technology landscape, I'll say, being a technology company. While we understand that automation is indispensable at this point of time, we also know that it has serious repercussions on jobs and employment. So I think everybody is concerned about how the industry will shape up in the next few years, decade. The way we look at it, the workforce needs to be agile, flexible, and adaptable. They should be open to the idea of learning all the time. They need to be become lifelong learners. I think that's the key for anybody to understand and to survive in this competitive world. And I would say, and the pace of learning has to be faster than the pace of change. You can't wait for the change to happen and then say, you know what, I just missed the bus, let me just catch up. So there are enough information, there are enough trends in the market. You're not talking about 20 years back when you're just backing up on a cable TV to tell you what is happening in the world. You have all the information on your fingertip. So that's one. And we at an organization at a Wipro level, we support our employees to get upskilled and reskilled on a continuous basis. In fact, the way I'll put it across is we take just to quote a few measures that we have taken. We are tied up with universities, professional institutions, industry bodies. Just to name a few at a global level, it can be NASSCOM, it's IBPAP, CCAP, and CIBO, where we constantly work to build content in emerging technologies. But also spoke about some of the details at a city level what we are doing. Then there's a more cadre-based learning intervention to in-house domain academies to build capabilities for novice to SME levels. Now, this may be done in-house, so the companies which do not have the capability, there's enough training institutions that are there. I think the industry bodies there that for you to help you upskill your employees. Then you have the partnership with, say a Spark-based publishing to new age leadership skills to people managers. I think that is also soft skills are equally important in this time to adapt to technology. In fact, things like regular master classes by industry and technology events is another thing that we feel should be ongoing. Then today, you are not dependent on a specific module or a seminar to learn. There is crowdsourcing of content from within and outside. We go through our latest crowdsourcing platform. So I think there's a plethora of tools, platforms that are available for employees to get skilled. I think what they just need to understand, the change is inevitable. You have to catch up and you have to catch the trend much ahead of time before it's too late. So I'll possibly end by saying that there have been 4 industrial revolutions and there was always an anxiety that people will lose jobs. But I think after every industrial revolution, things have only improved. People have got more upskill and more prosperous. So I think we need to have faith in our skills and the how industry is evolving.
All right, maybe we can ask a similar question to Pert. How do we manage automation?
Yeah, exactly. Ria, I wanted to add to what Asim said. Asim said it very well when he said we have to become lifelong learners and we have to learn faster. And at this point, I'd like to illustrate that point with our experience in semiconductors, because aside from IT-BPM, I also have experience in semiconductor manufacturing. During our time, this was early 80s, late 70s, early 80s, when wire bonding operation was manual, meaning say one operator operating one machine 8 hours a day in front of a microscope, okay? The productivity at that time was $70,000 per head. And we had like 1,300 people already at that time. Today, there are still 1,300 people. So no loss in jobs, but they're now fully automated such that each operator now handles something like 5 machines, fully automated. The operator no longer has to spend 8 hours a day in front of a microscope. Instead, she has a laptop, which is mounted on a mobile pedestal. She moves around, monitoring the data, the performance of the machine, because all the machines are networked. So that improves the quality of job for the 1,300 people. And the more important thing is the productivity went up 7 times, okay? So what's the lesson? The lesson is we don't have to be afraid of automation. Instead, we should prepare for it. And that's exactly what Asim said. We learn and we learn faster. And in the case of C.O, we face it head on by embarking on automation projects. In my presentation, I listed down a few of them. The RPA or robotic process automation projects for health, insurance, finance, accounting, etc. So the message to everybody, let's not be afraid. Let's instead work towards it, embrace it, make ourselves better. Okay?
That's right. I love that. I love that outlook. Not to fear the automation, but to embrace it, adapt with it, and take advantage of it. Right. So, still on the topic of automation, if we can go back to ASEC Nikki, in an article, you represented Secretary Bello III in the launching of the Philippine Skills Framework as a significant development in the effort to formulate sector-specific skills frameworks to guide the country's workers in enhancing skills for particular job roles. Can you tell us more about this? Is it also going as expected?
Sorry, I was muted. Thank you, Ria. Actually, the value of the Philippine Skills Framework is that you're able to, it allows learners and workers, for instance, to acquire modular skills that are stackable depending on the role that he or she plays in the company, and also depending in his or her career objectives and goals. So, for instance, applying that Philippine Skills Development Framework in the IT-BPM sector, where there are subsectors such as the contact center, gaming, human health resource, and each of these subsector would have different occupations also that requires different skills. So, if for instance, in the job openings that you see in contact centers, most of these are customer service relations. And if you are a customer service relation, it requires different functions and different skills. For instance, your role will be in sales or in marketing. And what you can do with this modular and stackable skills, you can build on it and then you grow in the company, whether laterally or even vertically or horizontally. So that's how it works in the Philippine Skills Development Framework. The other thing is that we'd like to see it as a reference framework for employment policy. For instance, what will be the value of the Philippine Skills Framework in having a sectoral or industry wage within, for instance, in the IT-BPM sector. So depending on the depending on the skills, the competitiveness that you acquire, then you can be very competitive also in the market for as long as you have that different skills that is required by the industry.
Right. That being the case, ASEC, what is the rate of employability and competitiveness of our workforce after the fourth industrial revolution and now, of course, the coronavirus pandemic?
Ria, if you look at the current statistics that we have, it goes around 70 to 80%. But it also depends on where the learner or the worker is or what strata he or she belongs. So it could be lower than 70%, for instance, but there are some areas, but very few, that are higher than 90%. The other, if we compare ourselves globally or within the ASEAN region, talking about the fourth industrial revolution, that's another story because we might be less competitive than other ASEAN members or even other states around the world.
Right. So again, that emphasizes what the PERT and Asim were saying, right? We need to upskill, we need to train more and learn really quickly. Okay, since 2010, the Philippines has been leading voice BPO services provider, surpassing all other markets, something we're proud of. And today, the industry has proven its ability to evolve by expanding to multi-tower and higher value services that have attracted investors and locators globally. Offering more complex and digitally enabled non-voice services, the Philippine IT BPO industry has transformed into an omni-channel delivery model, and it continues to provide niche business process services to various industries. So, Attorney Ricky, allow me to ask you, how does this apply to the Visayas and Mindanao regions?
Hi, Ria. Yes, it does. And I'd like to point out so we have centers of excellence already in the Visayas and Mindanao regions. So we have Cebu, Bacolod, Negros Occidental, and these are the places where you have these, and Davao, of course, in Mindanao. And those higher value services are being offered already in those cities. And then for the Digital Cities 2025, we're also developing cities like Tacloban, Roa City, Tagbilaran in Visayas, and in Mindanao, that's Jensan, Iligan, and Zamboanga. So you'll expect, no, again, higher value services moving to these cities. So I think that's the biggest effect, no, on the regions of Visayas and Mindanao. And again, the backbone really is infrastructure. So telco is very important. We saw a migration of talent as well back to the provinces. But like what JDL and PERT have mentioned, the training and development is constant. So I think that's the important thing. The acronym that I learned this morning, the magic, no, it's really the combination of academe, government, and industry working together. And I think this is happening in Visayas and Mindanao through the help of people like JDL and PERT.
Yeah, definitely good to know that it's happening all over the country, right? And not just in Metro Manila. Now, all signs point to ICT and IT-BPO as the fastest growing industries in the country today, buoyed by the rapid digitalization across the Philippines. And despite the economic challenges of the past year, the IT-BPO industry continues to grow because of its quick shift in processes and operations. But, truth be told, that wasn't the case for most industries. At this critical time of recovery, when businesses are pivoting their operations to leverage technology and adapt to shifting consumer behavior, mentorship and guidance from experts are valued. So, Jonathan, what I'd like to ask you is, how are you responding to this call as the brand ambassador for information and communication technology?
So first and foremost, Rhea, thank you for asking me the most difficult question. First and foremost is, well, the pandemic came with a magnifying glass. Now, so it magnified a lot of things for us. Magnified a lot of our strengths, and it magnified a lot of our weaknesses as well. Now, the entire industry across animation, game development, healthcare, contact center, software, services, shared service captives, we are now being called as a pandemic-proof industry. And we did not do this alone. Let me just be very clear about that now. So our telco partners reacted very, very fast in terms of providing us with the infrastructure for us to actually continue and increase our productivity. Ricky, keep me honest here, but it took us less than 8 months to basically go from a 5% productivity all the way to about 90. So even now that most people are still doing work from home and are comfortable doing work from home, it was imperative that the conversation in terms of how we move forward becomes a multi-stakeholder discussion, including our partners in government. So even PESA adjusted a lot. Dole, gave its own fair share of support together with the DTI, the DICT. Now, that being said, as an ICT ambassador, I always tell people now, it's not very difficult to sell ideas that are very difficult to pitch in the past. Like for a Sims company, they actually went the reverse. They went to the countryside first before they even explored the national capital region. That is the Wipro story. So I always tell that story to anybody who doubts that a countryside play is actually feasible. And we're not talking about a small company here. We're talking about a globally recognized technology leader that basically did the reverse. They went against the grain, and they're very happy with it. More so now with the pandemic. Second is that, personally, when I made the move going back to the countryside sometime 2016, most of my friends thought that I lost my marbles, right? Because moving back to the countryside is oftentimes construed as a career suicide, especially if you're still marketable. But come 2020, the first quarter of 2020, when the pandemic came to our shores, my phone never stopped ringing, asking if the facilities are all available because they want to move back to the countryside and they're looking for options to actually move operations outside of the compromised areas, which is mostly the more populated areas, no, because a pandemic works that way. More populous you are, the better chances of, that you have of a possible contagion. So as the ICT ambassador, I'm sticking to my guns in terms of promoting countryside development. Second is the absolute partnership between the components of Magic, and what's terribly absent in our conversation right now is a representative from the academe. Because even if Dole is already fixing this skills framework, it is up to the government agencies assigned to develop the talent to execute this. This is a blueprint that Dole has provided. So now it is up to TESDA, CHED, and DepEd to actually take that and develop that. Because, this is not a magic one type of thing, wherein we wave it and then all of a sudden everybody's upskilled and reskilled. When before the pandemic, when we created Roadmap 2022 together with IBPAP and all the subsector industry association, we were actually more concerned about digital disruption, not knowing that there was something as big and impactful as COVID-19 that was going to reach our shores. And that study basically called out already that 67% of the jobs within the IT-BPM sector will be compromised. Hence, it is important that now the good thing is it basically gave us a shot of caffeine for the industry, for the academe, and for government as well. And also even the local stakeholders, which also translates to the LGUs. So as the ICT ambassador, I'm sticking to my guns regarding countryside development and partnership between academia, industry, and government.
Right. Now, Jonathan, we know that apart from being the president of PSIA, you're also a current board member of IBPAP. And recently, IBPAP reported that the IT-BPO industry, demonstrated that resilience that you've all been talking about in the face of global disruption, adding 23,000 jobs, generating revenues of $26.7 billion last year. So that marks a 1.4% increase from the year before. So Jonathan, can you tell us exactly what role did PSIA play in this?
We were one of the compromised industries, Rhea, truth be known. Us and the contact center space. So we contracted for 2020, believe it or not. The two industries that are basically everything, all the segments are equally important, but the contact center space holds the largest chunk of the pie. And then the PSIA is supposed to be the technology experts, which is supposed to be powering all of the other industries. But unfortunately, we were compromised. And that is also because we are so dependent on services. We never had a clear focus in creating our own product line. So, it's important also that, due to this pandemic, it opens our consciousness that we need to, the best way to say it, get high on our own supply. We Filipinos have been powering a lot of multinational companies. And if you look at all of the applications that basically got significant traction during the pandemic, none of these applications are actually Filipino-made. So it also now tells us a very distinct message. We should start creating our own technological intellectual property.
Right. Okay. Thank you for that, Jonathan. But we also have a follow-up question from the audience. This is from Meryl, and she's typed in this question. Is Spring Valley an accelerator, an incubator, or a little bit of both? And how many startup companies do you have in the program?
So it's all of the above. So right now we're building the facilities to actually do this. But the startup ecosystem is a very challenging environment, as we very well know. It takes a lot of funding to do that. That's why when we created Spring Valley, it was really to create multiple value streams so that we could basically get the necessary funding to help, smaller startups, most especially in the countryside, to have the necessary resources for them to realize, at least all the way to their minimum viable product. So we have facilities called Sprint, which is the Spring Valley Incubation and Training Center. But the unique value proposition, Ria, is that for every startup, usually the team is incomplete, right? They're all technical, nobody knows how to sell. They all know how to sell, nobody knows how to do the technical stuff. And what the Spring Valley value proposition puts on the table is that we make you borrow our resources so that you will create your minimum viable product. So that's the concept.
Great. So thank you for that, Jonathan, and thank you, Meryl, for your question. Now I'd like to go back to Attorney Ricky. Attorney, can you confirm that the IT-BPO industry is the biggest job generator and has delivered a multitude of direct and indirect benefits to the Philippines?
Actually, it's the biggest job generator in the private sector. So with 1.32 million Filipinos, and then indirectly affecting 4 times that. So there's a multiplier effect. And this is seen especially in the real estate sector, where close to half of the office spaces are taken up by the IT-BPO industry. This is also seen in the job sector, where about close to 50% are in the IT-BPO space as well. So we are expecting around 130,000 jobs to be created in the IT-BPO sector in the next 2 years. So that ends in 2022. And so far, that's 5%, at 5% growth. There are other forecasts which are higher, but we're sticking to the 5% to be more on the conservative side. But yes, we are the largest single private sector job generator right now.
So what would the impact of this and these reports be on the Vismin regions?
Oh, very much. No, a lot of the real estate take-up is in right now in the Visayas region, specifically in Iloilo. So we close a lot of right. We closed a lot of office space there. Opened a lot of offices and took up a lot of office space in Iloilo, and we're also expanding in Cebu, Bacolod, also in Davao. So we can see that the development is across these regions.
Right, and that's 23 provinces, am I right?
25 cities. So we're looking at 25 digital cities. And out of the 25, we have 6 digital cities. These are the new, no? So centers of excellence are already established. That's Iloilo, Cebu, Davao. But then you'll see the up and coming, in the Visayas, it's Tacloban, Roa City, Tagbilaran in Bohol, which is a beautiful place, no? So you get the best out of the beach locations and a great place to work. In Mindanao, it's Jensan, Iligan, and Zamboanga. So nice places to work and play.
Yeah,
Beautiful. If I may, because of the pandemic and the aggressive growth of infrastructure in the provincial areas, this has now made it possible for smaller cities and municipalities to actually compete. Now, Ricky also mentioned that there was a reverse migration. So those that have been working in the larger cities have now been allowed to go back and perform their work in their respective provinces, which now increases the experience of the entire area, no, the entire locality. Just to add to my statement a while ago, everybody right now, including all members of the PSIA, are reporting double-digit growth, no, from now until the end of 2022. And I think that trend is really going to continue. We're back to the same issues, like, we lack the talent to actually support the aggressive growth thanks to the digital explosion. But I guess these are very good problems to have at this point.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And speaking of the Visayas region, I'd like to jump to our guest panelist here, who is currently part of the Cebu IT-BPO sector. So, the Cebu IT-BPO industry has identified growth drivers to sustain its lead in the changing outsourcing market. Can you tell us more about these drivers?
Yes. Okay, we have identified segments based on my presentation. The segments are contact centers, voice and non-voice, and then we have the back office operations, the shared service operations, health, etc., etc. And as I pointed out, we are going to push more growth, and we are seeing more growth in the non-contact center. Okay, and the particular examples that I have cited, fortunately, happen to be local companies. Alliance Software, and Cavallo. Cavallo is a very interesting company. It's a Cebuano company. And if you're familiar with the Cebuano dialect, Cavallo means knowledgeable. Okay, knowledgeable. So they're picking up an idea and selling their knowledgeability in managing the home health care service in the US. It is a niche market, a very sharp choice of a niche, I would say, on the part of the founder, who is also living here. By getting that niche, she's able to provide a unique selling proposition. Okay, and most of her employees are nurses, medically trained, etc. The growth driver in that case is being able to find your niches. Okay, that's already one niche there. The other niche that I have found, that we have seen, rather, we have a new member whom we just inducted the other week. This is an American business. Their product is a very unique product in the diabetes field. If you're familiar with diabetes 2, people who have diabetes 2 have to prick their fingers every so often during the course of the day to monitor the blood sugar. Okay. In this particular case, the company's name is Dexcom, by the way. They have a product that you basically essentially just paste on your skin. And then the whole day you can monitor your blood sugar from any digital device, cell phone, smartphone, tablet, PC, whatever. Monitor it the whole day from anywhere in the world. Even your relatives can monitor your blood sugar. And the technical support is done in Cebu. So again, a niche. So in other words, what I'm saying is, okay, we have gone through in the past through what we call in the marketing the commodity product segments, the commodities, the high volume commodities. There comes a time when that becomes saturated and it's more difficult to grow. Therefore, the new drivers will have to come from several niches. And that's what we are trying to encourage. And supporting that approach of finding the niches is our approach of generating innovation. By having these innovations, technological innovations, we hope to be able to attract more attention from the new thinkers and new players in the IT-BPM space. Okay. I hope that answers your question, Ria.
Yes, I have one more question. It's been reported that the CIB.O recognizes the need to create so-called weapons to fight the war of preventing industry stagnation and decline. What exactly do you mean by weapons? What are they, and how is CIB.O using them?
Okay, I think this was picked up from the annual summit last July. Okay, I was talking about the metaphor that I used. We are fighting a war. Maintaining and winning in an industry, developing an industry is a war. We have to fight against enemies. And the enemies, like you said, is stagnation. Okay, you can have three possible futures. Okay, and I said you can grow, you can stagnate, or you can decline. And in the case of decline, I used specifically the case of Cebu's furniture industry. We are old enough to remember, I think, that there was a time when Cebu was very strong in its furniture exports during the 80s and the 90s. look at it today. There's practically no more furniture export from Cebu, and that decline, I would say, has been due to loss of competitiveness because of lack of innovation. No innovation. We always pride ourselves for being creative in design and so on. But that's just the visual side. The very heart of the product, the materials, for example, we lose out because China develops a lot of better products, cheaper products, so on. Okay, so one weapon is innovation. The other is making use. Well, I like the word introduced by Jonathan Visayas. No, I like his magic. I love that because we are also using that using a different terminology. We call it triple helix. Triple helix. The triple helix consists of the government, industry, and academia. No? The magic of Jonathan. So we're employing that in our board. We have the big universities represented, and we work with them in generating the innovation, and we work with governments, specifically DOST, DTI, and we hope that the TESTA program will also push through. So with all of this triple helix collaboration, we hope to deploy another important weapon. So innovation and triple helix are two of our main weapons to fight this war.
Nice. I'm going to stick with you for a second, Kurt, because currently SIB.O is working on Strat 8 plans, or the 8 strategies in managing challenges and taking opportunities brought by the pandemic, and one of which includes promoting the interest of the IT-BPO sector in Cebu. Where exactly are you on this, and is SIB.O looking at opportunities outside Cebu City in terms of promoting employment?
Oh yeah, definitely. We look beyond the city. Although SIB.O's membership mostly is within the Tri-Cities, Lapu-Lapu, Mandaue, and Cebu City, our employees are from all over the province of Cebu, from all over Region 7, and even from Mindanao. We have employees from Mindanao and Manila. So we have started pushing the idea that we want business to go out of Cebu, okay? For 2 reasons, which I already mentioned in my presentation. One reason is before the pandemic, the congestion level of Cebu City was so bad that it has become a disincentive to new investment, right? So that's one reason, to decongest the city. Second, and pandemic, like Jonathan said, provided a magnifying glass. The pandemic magnified the problem of congestion, because in congestion you have faster transmission of the virus. So that's the other big reason. So we have big members, who are actually establishing, aside from the individual work from home arrangement for the employees, they are also setting up hubs in various places. Like if you look at the island of Cebu, you can have a hub in Minglanilla down south, in Liloan in the north, all the way to Danao and then Bogo. So you can choose hubs, and where your people can congregate once in a while for meetings, for training, etc. Okay. The other effort that we have entered is by working through the academy, through the school. I was a keynote speaker of the Philippine Society for IT Educators Visayas chapter, Region 7, last June, and that organization happens to have member schools from all over Region 7. So therefore, through this network, we are able to introduce the idea of expediting education, accelerating the acquisition of technology, and creating jobs right there, where they are, wherever they are. They don't have to come to Metro Cebu to find that they can have jobs right where they are. Okay, so that's our, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that. And speaking of Cebu, we want to congratulate Asim, of course, on being Cebu's largest private sector employer when it comes to outsourcing. And my next question is for you, Asim. Can you share with us your journey on how WePro became an established company, and what are your thoughts on Vismin becoming an outsourcing destination?
It's a lovely question. So I'll put it this way. This year, WePro completes 75 years of its existence, and we complete 75 years. Not many people know that we are a soap to software company. We started with vegetable oil, selling vegetable oil, then into soaps, then into hydraulics, then high technologies. In fact, for a matter of fact, we are into consumer care and products as well. So Wipro as a conglomerate, we are into it. So for many of you, it will be a surprise. Wipro also has a personal care entity in Philippines called Splash. So all the ladies on the call, if you know what is Witness, what is MaxiPeel, Skin White, these are all Wipro products. So Wipro acquired Splash 2 years back. So like I said, we are into everything from from software to soaps. So, it's an exciting journey. I think the way I'll put it across, that's Wipro with 220,000 plus employees globally, in almost 69 countries. Closer to home in Philippines, and that's a topic that's close to my heart, and I think Jonathan did touch upon it. That 13 years back, we had a choice. Everybody was rushing to Manila. Everybody. We are talking 2007. And somehow, my predecessors, even in 2007, thought Manila was too congested. So we were looking for a location which had a great talent pool, had a great infrastructure, and connectivity. If you would have heard me in my session, I spoke about connectivity, and this connectivity at that time was not the internet connectivity. It was connectivity through travel. If we have to travel there, is there an international airport there? Is the flight, can the customers fly to Cebu? I think all that helped us make a decision. So we, like I said, this was an exception to the rule that we first go to a provincial city, that is Cebu, and then set up our BCP site in Manila in 2010. So we first set up Cebu in 2007, followed by Manila. And I think that decision has been vindicated time and again as the right one. Today, like I said, we are the largest private employer and growing. Manila continues to be a BCP site for us, but most of the time it happens. We are the BCP. Cebu is the BCP site for Manila because given all the typhoons, the volcanic eruptions, the earthquakes that keep on visiting Manila, and the notorious traffic, I think that all that kind of adds to our trouble. So we feel that Cebu has been the right choice for us to set up our regional center. We are today the largest India headquartered company as well. So not just in Cebu, but also the largest India headquartered company. Overall, Cebu provides for a strong BCP option. I think I spoke about it. I think there's a combination of all those things, and like I said, whether it was pandemic, the stability, the support provided by LGUs, CIBO, and other industry bodies in making sure telcos and making sure that our business is seamless has kind of further strengthened our faith in a provincial town. And like I said, I call Cebu my home. 10 years I've been here. I never felt like a foreigner here. So I think that makes things very, very special for us to continue to grow. And very proudly, I said that these numbers are not just in history. We have added almost, if I just say 1,300 overall in Philippines, out of which almost 700 we have added in Cebu. And we are possibly going to hire another 300, 400 people in the next few months. So before we end the year, we would have added some 1,000 folks in and providing employment to folks in Cebu. So that's our story in a nutshell.
Right, and Cebu is such a beautiful city. Definitely one of my personal favorites. As Pert mentioned earlier, the weapons to fight the war, to prevent industry stagnation and decline. Can you say that net zero is one of these weapons? And can you tell us more about Wipro's net zero?
Net zero has to be understood in a different perspective. And just to give you an idea, Wipro as an organization, we have strong belief in purpose. Out of every dollar that we earn or $100 that we earn, $67 goes into philanthropic initiative or sustainability initiative. So that's irrevocable. So similarly, net zero is our commitment towards sustainability. It's to call it the campaign is called Transform to Net Zero. It's a cross-sector initiative to accelerate the transition to a net zero emissions global economy. Wipro is proud to be a founding member of this critically important group. Also, there are the other members that are there. It's to include Maersk, it's to include Mercedes-Benz, Nike, Starbucks, Unilever, just to name a few. The initiative is supported by BSR, which is nothing but Business for Social Responsibility, which is serving as the secretariat for the initiative. So why, transform to net zero and why now? So Wipro has a long-standing commitment to social and environmental responsibilities, leading a wide range of successful sustainability initiatives, including a net zero target. Joining Transform to Net Zero will enable us to share what we have already learned in the last many years, multiply the impact of existing environmental sustainability efforts. So this could not be more urgent than now, because further damage to our ecosystem threatens to disrupt our way of life. Scientists agree that in this decade, the world must have global greenhouse gas emissions to limit global warming to below some 1.5 degrees Celsius. So the longer term, the world must reach net zero global emissions in just a few short decades. That's how we look at it. So as part of the coalition, there's a five-year plan to address the goals. It includes enabling the business transformation that companies are taking now to achieve a net zero transmission by 2050, deliver emission reduction across entire business and value chains, work with partners across supply chains. So, we make it a point whether we are, your partners are also like eco-friendly, innovate and invest in at scale in products and business sales models that amplify the impact and ensure a just transition for all people and communities. And finally, engage with policymakers, whether it's academia, it's government, to support policy that incentivize progress toward the net zero. So if I say in a nutshell, right from our travel, right from our offices, everywhere the focus is on net zero. So we are committed to achieving what we call net zero greenhouse emission by 2040, which is in line with the objective of the Paris Agreement, to cap temperature rise to 1.5 degrees Celsius. So that's where, what net zero is all about.
And I think it's also, an incentive for investors to want to engage with companies who have that consciousness. Okay, we only have a few minutes left, so I want to get through the next couple of questions really, really quickly. We've heard lots of additional knowledge about the country's current IT-BPO landscape, but I'm sure everybody wants to know your thoughts on the future of the industry. So, for example, the IT-BPO industry in Cebu is projected to grow as one of the key economic drivers in Vismin, and there's a business pattern where growth starts slow, but it eventually gains momentum. However, it also slows and plateaus as the market gets saturated. So, Pert, I'm going to go back to you. Can you tell us more about the so-called S-curve in the IT-BPO industry, and are there any particular nuances in the IT-BPO operations in Vismin that you would like to share really quickly?
Yeah, very quickly. S-curve is a theoretical framework or a theory that says that any business, any technology, etc., usually starts slow, and then after a period of years, after it has acquired traction, it accelerates. So you have this very sharp rise, but after accelerating for a few years, it becomes to slow down. And numerically, if you look at the IT-BPM industry in the Philippines, for example, from the year 2000 to 2005, Cebu, if I talk about Cebu, we were growing at maybe only around 5%. But after 2005 to around 2010, there were years when we were growing at 10, 15, 20% as several of the big companies came in. But starting with 2008, we see fewer and fewer growth, or slower and slower growth. Like, for example, the research that IBPAP mentioned, there was a forecast in 2019 that 2020 to 2021 would be growing at around 5 to 7%, but the actual was much less than that. We grew only around 1.7, 1.8%. That was partly because of the pandemic. But also at the same time, even before the pandemic, when the pandemic officially started January 2020, there was already a reduction in the forecast. So there was already expectation was lower growth even before the pandemic, and the pandemic just simply helped make it happen. Now, there is a lot of hope right now that we will grow faster, but at the moment, that's just pure hope. Will we grow faster than 5%? No. Will we be going back to the 10% growth? Will we be going back to the 15% growth? The only way by which we can achieve that is if we introduce something radically different. And that radical difference can only come from innovation. If we happen to develop the best, most efficient RPA in the world, then we will be attracting more and more of those users of RPA in the world. Okay? If government, for example, introduces policies that are attractive to international companies, then we will be attracting those companies. Much like the way that Vietnam was able to attract a lot of foreign direct investment in the past 10 to 15 years. Okay, so it's policy driven at the same time. In addition to innovation driven, we should be working with the government to put the right policy package in place.
Right, so to support innovation as much as possible. Okay, I've got like 1 minute for you, Asik, Nikki. What do you think the government can do to make sure that the Philippines produces the workforce of the future?
Okay, earlier in the discussion, I think Asim mentioned about lifelong learning, and therefore we should really improve our learners and our workers, so that S curve that was mentioned by was it Perth saying that we should be able to bring at the industry level. For instance, we should bring our workers from low level skills to mid and high level skills, which is needed also by the industry in the future. Also, there was mention and emphasis about collaboration by Jonathan and Perth as well on government, industry, and academe. So that would really, that should be strengthened, and looking forward to a seamless movement and progression also of our learners and workers to and from education and training institutions, to also enhance employability and competitiveness of our workers in the labor market, whether at the global or local level.
Right, thank you for that. And for our last question for the fireside chat, I'd like to go back to Jonathan. Jonathan, we know that PSIA has world-class standards. That being the case, what does PSIA have in the next few years that we should watch out for?
Well, I'll answer that fairly quickly. I know we're running out of time. The mandate of every IT-BPM industry is to do two things, basically. One is to create the talent and create the market. Grow the market in several other geographies. We've always been very, very heavy on US-facing engagements. But right now, thanks to the pandemic as well, more geographies have actually opened up, no? So including our neighbors here in Asia Pacific. So PSIA actually has the bragging rights of having at least 24% of our services being rendered here in the Philippines are for the Japan market, and we're hoping that we could grow that with other Asian countries as well. So just to answer your question directly, we are still going through a lot of enablement seminars, most of which are actually sponsored by Globe. We have international events that promote the strength of the Philippine software, technology, and innovation industry. And then we also have our initiatives to actually help the startup ecosystem, because that I think is also one of the key components where we could develop, the much higher value skill sets, as mentioned by Asek Nikki.
Right, thank you for that, Jonathan, and thank you all so much for sharing your thoughts and insights with us. Really, really exciting times ahead, but also much work to be done, and a lot of collaboration that needs to take place as well. And as much as we want to answer all of your questions, our audience, that's all the time that we have left for our fireside chat. So thank you again to our panelists. That was Attorney Ricky, Asek Nikki, Jonathan, Perth, and Asim for joining us this morning. I myself learned a lot, and it was a morning well spent. So I thank you for that. So, ladies and gentlemen, that concludes today's event. Thank you all so much for your participation. We appreciate your time and your effort. And we know that you learned a lot from the insights on how we can all adapt to these changing times to strategize and innovate for continuous business growth in the IT-BPO industry. So if you have any questions about Globe Business Solutions, please contact your Globe Business account managers for more details. They will be really happy to help you with any questions or concerns that you might have. Also, we'd like to encourage everyone to please visit the link on your screens right now. Alternatively, you can just scan the QR code that is also there. This is so you can answer our event feedback form. So once again, if you love this event and everything that we prepared for you, or if you'd like to comment on how we can make the event even more meaningful to you, we do encourage you please to share your feedback so that we can further improve our engagements in the future. Right? We want to make sure that everybody is getting the most out of these events. So you can just click on the link or scan the QR code. Your feedback is really important to us. Thank you so much, because it really helps improve Globe's relationship with viewers for future events. All right, thank you for that. Once again, I'm Ria Tanwat-Cotrillo. Thank you all so much. It's been an honor to host this event. Together, let's rise to achieve digitalization and regional expansion in the ITO-BPO industry. Maraming salamat.